So in this video, we are going to discuss the process of birth. So birth is going to be the end of pregnancy. So when pregnancy comes to an end, we will begin the birthing process or parturition. This is going to involve a decrease in progesterone. Again, progesterone is what's been keeping that fetus in place inside the uterus this whole time. So now we're going to see a decrease in progesterone, which is then going to increase those prostaglandins, which will cause an increase in uterine contractions. So now we're starting to try and push this fetus out of the body. The cervix is going to become thinner. And again, the cervix is found in between the uterus and the vagina, and it's going to be one of the barriers that prevents anything from entering or exiting the vagina. And in this case, it's becoming thinner and starting to open. So the stretching of the uterus and vagina will then stimulate a positive feedback, which is going to involve the cervical stretch, which will release oxytocin. And if there's oxytocin, the uterine contractions will occur. So this is a positive feedback loop, meaning, as we talked about with the graphs, something is going to happen. In this case, we're going to have the stretching of the uterus, which will cause oxytocin to be released. And if there's a stretch of that, oxytocin is released, which is going to cause contractions. And those contractions will continue to stretch, and it's going to continue and continue and continue. At this point, the fetus is typically positioned with its head down, facing the cervix, so it's the first part of its body to exit. And labor is when the strong muscle contractions of the uterus are going to force the fetus through the birthing canal, which at the end of the day is the cervix, vagina, and the vulva. So labor is the pushing of the fetus out. Uterine contractions are also aided by contractions of the abdominal wall. So your abdominal muscles are also going to be used in pushing the baby. And after birth, the placenta is going to be expelled from the uterus, and that is known as the afterbirth. So after the fetus comes out, the placenta will follow. Here is essentially what we just talked about, but nicely laid out, and also a little more detail, so please look through this. But it's just essentially talking about all the specifics of the labor process. Here is the positive feedback loop that we discussed. So as the cervix gets stretched, it is going to stimulate the stretch receptors, which are then going to elicit a reflex that causes strong uterine contractions, which is going to push the fetus downwards. Once that happens, the fetal head is forced towards the cervix, which stretches the cervix again, which stretches the receptors, which cause the reflex, which pushes the fetus. As you guys can see, this is a positive feedback loop. It just keeps going, getting stronger and stronger and stronger until eventually the baby is out. Here's an image of the baby throughout the birthing process. So how it begins and how it finishes. And if you have any questions about anything to do with the birthing process, please let me know.